All right. Thanks everyone for coming to the discussion. We'll go around and do introductions. I'm Shiv. I am a chemist in theory. I'm a theoretical chemist, and I mainly deal with quantum Monte Carlo. I sometimes do 2D type systems, but mainly I stay in zero-dimensional periodic systems. Uh,
Yeah, my name's Amanda. I'm also a fifth year student working in theoretical chemistry. I use similar methods, electronic structure, quantum Monte Carlo methods. I just started working in periodic systems, so that's rather new, starting to understand that, but also small molecules for the most part.
Ryan. I am a fourth year PhD at CMU. I do like nanoorphas on 2D materials devices. And then I also do like a little bit of electron transport and spin transport on the side as well.
I'm Rajan. I'm a second year at CMU, and I do work studying fluctuations in quantum materials using X-ray scattering techniques.
Cool. Okay, and now we're gonna just like go into. I prepared some questions, so I mean we can talk about anything, but basically, so you talked about a lot today, and it covered obviously a large portion of time that you committed towards the project. What would you say, like, where did you find the most trouble, and how did you sort of overcome any of these barriers?
Yeah, first of all, the trouble is equipment, I guess. I guess I have one semester, either the laser breakdown or the analyzer breakdown. So after I fix one, the other have a problem. But by fixing this equipment, you can get familiar with the equipment. So in the future, maybe I can try to calm it down when I feel maybe it's not when it starts to having something not good. So I guess this is one thing, and another thing is maybe try to organize the experiment. So because in the future we need to get back to the data. I mean, how do I say? Yes. So to organize the data in a good position, so will help you in the future to come back, because you will have many data at different days. You need to refer it back. So this organization is kind of also important. Another thing which excuse me, I think maybe it's more special to our group is most of our difficulties lies in analyzing the data instead of really doing the experiment, because our technique is kind of we only have a big picture of what we want to do, but and the technique is kind of unique. So you can see that the silver is a system which has been studied for decades. So we are only using this kind of new technique to study this old system. So maybe we don't have a very clear idea of what we really want to do, but in the data there will be always many interesting things. So how to analyze data sometimes is a kind of aimless and time consuming.
Yeah. That's super interesting, because actually a lot from computational work, a lot of the things you're saying, especially like the organization, overlaps really well with some of the problems you'll have in computational work. It's just making sure you're putting things in a logical order. And I think the atmosphere of keeping a lab notebook is more prevalent in experimental stuff than computational, even though it's still important.
I end up solving like the same problem like 3 different times because I forgot.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Have you ever had to retake data that you've already collected in the past just because?
In the beginning, yes. Yeah. But at the end, I usually organize. One day I will do a series of experiments, so I won't separate into different days. Otherwise, I might forget.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I had a question along this, like, and you may also be students just from working in a lab. I'm very individual. So when you go up to set up these experiments, like, do you have to work with lab mates to like do multiple experiments in a day, or do you have a day to yourself? Like, how is the like time shared for instrumentation like that?
Oh, I mean, I definitely will share with maybe two people, one or two people with experiment with the instrument. But the thing for us is our experiment mostly takes a period of time.
Mm.
So we, for example, 2 or 3 weeks, one guy will do it and then shift to others.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's nice. Yeah.
and because it's not so many people, so it's more or less flexible to ask for 1 or 2 days more.
Okay.
So that's that. That's good. Yeah.
That is nice. Yeah.
It's not like you need maybe computation source and you need to put into a queue or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's never fun, but yeah, at least that's organized for us. So that's yeah, I wasn't sure. That's interesting though.
Yeah. So, I mean, going off of that, how hard is it to collect good, clean data? Because especially in some of the 2D things you were showing, I was surprised at the resolution you can see. And is that the nature of the technique that you're getting that much resolution, or is there really like magic behind it?
Actually, I mean, now the instrument, of course, is good itself. I mean, they are developing high resolution analyzer, and also, maybe for 2D material and this novel material, it can be harder because of their band structure are more complicated. But for silver, this band structure is kind of simple, so it's not so easy to get a good data, I guess. Yeah.
Kind of piggybacking off of that sort of
Mhm.
idea of collecting data.
Mhm.
It's something I find very difficult is
Mhm.
to find that special instrument. For us, it's like finding that special type of light that we can use. And then you have to find, okay, you need these short pulses. And then you also need to be able to look in multiple directions in momentum.
Mhm.
How did you land on this one instrument, this momentum microscope that you're talking about, that's not in your home lab?
Oh, that's actually because a postdoc I work with in our lab, it went back to this group, this Germany group. So he bring up this opportunity for me. Yeah. So you can see, I mean, I also have some data taken at 2 directions when I rotate the sample, but that's very, I mean, a very troublesome because I need to take the sample out of the UHV and cut out the wires which are used to fix the sample and to rotate some specific angles. And that's very troublesome, you know. But and for these instruments, yeah, mostly it's all to the it's from this previous postdoc in our group. Yeah. But I guess what I feel is that in Germany they have more advanced. I mean, they make most of the instruments are made in Germany. I mean, they design it, so usually they will have the first-hand nice instruments.
Kind of going off of that, like after being at this facility in Germany, are there things now returning to your home lab that you feel like you want to improve, or because often in these university labs the setup is kind of always evolving and growing kind of organically? Are there things that you might change now?
That change might be first that needs a lot of funding to. So and another thing is for the present projects in our group, maybe we don't really need the some fully upgrade or something. And also, although we cannot resolve the 2D at one time, but one good thing about our equipment is we can only collect data in a specific energy range. So in the momentum microscope, they need to collect all the photoelectrons. And this will be harder when you want to look at higher order process because for example, in an experiment with 2 pp and 3 pp, the 3 pp intensity will be much lower than the 2 pp. And if you collect all the data, you cannot see the 3PP. And in our group, what we specialize in is in MPP, so trying to get higher order signal. So in this way, maybe it's still capable of doing experiment right now.
That's a cool aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask, whenever you were talking to theorists and like someone's doing the DFT calculations and stuff, a lot of times experimentalists and theorists are like talking different languages.
Yeah.
So it's like, how did you navigate that? Like, how hard was it to interact with someone who's just like completely divorced from the experimental side of things?
Yeah, so in our theory calculation, you can see, I mean, there are two guys. One is maybe a young scientist, and another guy is a big name. And if talking with this big name guy, it's more difficult to understand what he's saying. So mostly my advisor will be doing the communication. But with this young scientist, mostly we are talking in a way that the other guy can understand.
Yeah. Okay. That's super interesting, especially. Yeah, I feel like the experiences align with what I've seen. And so, was there ever any point where you would look at the experiments and it's just not agreeing with what the theory's saying, and then like you guys would have to go back and forth on like figuring out what exactly is missing from any simulations or anything like that?
Yeah. So at first, the band structure calculation is not as good as what we published in paper, but that's because the theorist, he's just the first time he did this. But I guess this DFT calculation is kind of maybe because we are only asking for the very fundamental results, so not very novel calculation. So in principle, this may not be that troublesome. But of course, this S3 state which you asked about, the S plus morning photo emission.
Yeah.
At first, though, we didn't know this, but after the calculation, we need to think about how to fit our results with this theory calculation, and we find the explanation, maybe which we believe is an explanation. So find it in the literature, maybe some similar results, which we have successfully, I mean, combined the experiment and the theory.
Yeah. So it wasn't even that there was a major disagreement. It was just thinking about things until there.
Yeah, sometimes it's a calculation thing, but sometimes it can be, you can find something in the literature which solves this disagreement.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, I mean that is interesting. Did anybody else want to get in any questions? Because I did prepare a couple. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of times when I'm sitting down and I have something that's going wrong, I will start trying things and to fix a problem, and then like maybe after a day or two, I'll realize like some of the things I tried just like theoretically couldn't be an answer to what I was doing. Experimentally, whenever you're like faced with something like that, have you ever found yourself like just trying things and then like, why did I try that? There's no way that could have possibly worked.
Of course, I mean, but this, you of course, I mean, definitely, it's kind of feeling aimless. I mean, in that period, so you need to try something randomly. Maybe someday you would just come up with an idea.
Yeah,
how to do it.
Yeah,
I think that's.
I feel like the consequences associated with doing that experimentally are a bit higher than computationally, because with computation, like I burn a couple of service units or something, but it's not like the end of the world if I run some calculations that go nowhere. But experimentally, I don't know how, like once you run an experiment, what is like the associated cost? Do you lose a sample? Do you?
One good thing about studying the silver is, I mean, it's regular sputtering and annealing cleaning, but we don't. So it's not very complicated cleaning, but for the new material, I guess preparing it and sometimes it will degrade, but for silver, just cleaning it is fine.
Yeah.
We don't need to prepare a new sample.
Okay.
But drop the sample is definitely, if you drop in the UHV chamber, then you need to open the chamber because the UHV, so you need to spend at least 1 week to get everything back. And after we open the chamber and put it back into UHV again, sometimes you will expect the problem from your analyzer or something.
Yeah.
Definitely. So just try to be cautious.
Yeah, that's good advice.
With this week turnaround thing, it made me think about what you said earlier about spending so much time fixing the instruments. So with a complicated laser setup like that, I'm curious always with labs, like sometimes there's a resident expert who just knows the laser system and they're the person who fixes it. And is that something that can really hold you back in your work, or have you found after some time that you yourself have kind of become a laser person and you can improve the efficiency of the lab ops by just being there and learning everything there is about the system, or do you like say something goes wrong and you're trying to measure the silver and something about the laser gets out of whack? Do you have to wait until someone else comes and fixes it?
Definitely. I mean, our laser has a problem. I mean, when I just enter the lab and we contact, so sometimes it suddenly shut down and not fully shut down. It's only the final amplifier it shuts down, and we need to reopen it. And this comes without any signals beforehand, and can just disturb your experiment. And we contact the laser company. I mean, we tried something but didn't solve it. So in the first several years, at a specific time, sometimes it just come out. So we didn't find a good solution, but at least at last we try to tune something. So we find out that this small tuning can temporarily solve the problem. So we just live with it. So I think when doing experiment, a very important point is when the setup cannot meet your expectation. If you cannot solve it, maybe try to live it with it, as long as your pulse is not the laser itself is okay to use. Yeah, a compromise maybe sometimes.
Yeah, I have a distinct memory of my first job was doing on-call support for X-ray beamline. So it's a linear accelerator, and then they dump the electrons for X-rays. So the accelerator went down, and they have to fix it very quickly because the area is radioactive. So they fixed it. They found a short circuit in one of the undulating magnets which steers the electrons, and they stuck a piece of paper in it, knowing that it would fall out or burn up or something at time, but just to get the experiment running.
Yeah.
Whatever fixes the short.
Yeah. Sometimes you just cannot perfectly solve the problem.
Yeah. I'm sure this happens in computation as well. There's like a bug in the code. It's just like whatever gets working.
Yeah, it leads to some tangled messes.
And some of them make it to production.
Yes.
And like commercial codes as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm not naming names, but yeah. We're coming right up against time. I guess let's close it with in retrospect, you're at the end of your PhD. If you could go back and like talk to yourself at day one or like a new graduate student, what would you say like would save you the most time and like get you started quickly down this path of science? Or just any tip you could give.
Maybe again try to make some summaries about everything you did, So at the first of the PhD, mostly we are trying here and there and don't record what you did. And actually, maybe if you write down some notes and do some regular look back, maybe it helps. For example, when reading the literature at my very first, after I read it, I will forget about it. But if you can write some words on this paper, in the future might save you a lot of time. And also this is also same with what you did in computation or in experiment. If you write down some notes on what you did, so making notes, write down it. Don't expect you can remember everything.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's really good.
I learned it the hard way too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you.
joining
Thank
us.
you for
Thanks to
coming.
everyone for
Nice.
coming. This was awesome.